Nous allons à présent entendre 4 jeunes personnes, Sheilla, Roxana, BALDEÓN, ARAGÓN, BARSEGHYAN, Lucia, GOBERNA et Chiara MUELLER pour nous présenter les résultats d'une enquête en ligne effectuée auprès des Millennials sur la question précise de la mobilisation de la société civile. Alors merci beaucoup à tous les 4, il y en a quelqu'un est avec nous en ligne je crois, à tous les 4 d'être avec nous. À vous la parole.
Good afternoon to everyone. Je suis désolée, je ne peux pas parler français, mais je vais parler à l'anglais.
Ça tombe bien parce que vous n'êtes pas la seule ce soir.
Merci. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Sheilla BALDEÓN. I'm Peruvian, currently a candidate of the May program of the University of Geneva. And today I will present a brief overall of the survey that it was launched for Greycells. And it was an online survey launched by social media using Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. This survey has this kind of information that is really relevant for us that we want to share about. Includes information from millennials to elders, people from 20 years old to more than 65 years old, employed, students, retired. Also, we have seen that most people who respond this survey was people from Europe. And also we have that a really important issue in this survey that I can highlight is that people are moving from different parts of the world to Europe. So migration is a subject that is really important, and I think that we can work together for it. And we have seen in the first part of the dialogue with some experience of people who were sharing their experience about migration. And I think there is an important issue, and I will pass the word to my colleague to continue with the information about the survey. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I am Albert from Fair Internship Initiative. Thank you very much also Greycells. It's already the second time that we are working together for this. I think everyone here more or less knows about Fair Internship Initiative. We are the group behind pushing for paid internships in Geneva, but also in other duty stations. Every 20th of February on the World Social Justice Day, we are doing global interstrike this time. And we have achieved big results so far. Almost half of UN agencies are already paying their interns. Now we are focusing on the UN Secretariat, and hopefully super soon in the next resume session of 5th Committee, member states, 193, all of them will agree on abolishing unpaid, unfair internships. And our initiative's goals are quite important also in the context of the survey that Greycells has launched, is because what we are discussing here all day is about how civil society organizations are influencing decision-making at the international level, at the UN level. On the other side, how the UN is actually empowering civil society movements across the world. So what we are doing from case example, Fair Internship Initiative, we are former or current UN interns who understood at some point that UN is not always in line with its own values, with its own goals, with its own mission statements. I mean, UN is doing a lot of great things, but on that small thing, UN was not doing right things. So we said, okay, we need to mobilize, and we need to actually change the current status quo on unpaid internships. So now we are moving forward. You know, in 2018, it was World Health Assembly. It was a big thing, adopted unanimous resolution on banning unpaid internship. Now WHO interns are actually receiving very good stipend. Other agencies, UNDP, UNICEF, UNHCR, has also adopted such policies. So what we are saying is that once UN Secretariat also adopts a resolution banning unpaid internship, UN will have, as a global norm-setting organization, a moral authority to push for-profits and non-profits alike across the world and empower hundreds of millions of young people. Only in the European Union there are 5 million unpaid interns right now, and I don't know any statistics from China or from India. This is a big issue. This is not only about the interns issue, it's about like the labor market, and this is about our future. So from the survey part, we have asked several interesting questions, whether people are participating, millennials and seniors alike, in the civil movements, and we got very rich replies from their side. People are participating in social movements regarding social justice rights, labor rights. We had some replies from UN staff members who are lobbying both administrations at the UN in Switzerland and in France. You know, a lot of people are living also in the France voisin, so it was important thing. There is development area, water and sanitation, food for all. There is environment issues. For example, someone was involved in the movement aimed at stop cutting trees in the neighborhood, but also Fridays for Future. So you see, like on one side, you are going to the streets, you are fighting for the climate, but then you are also doing very local thing, just stopping trees in your neighborhood to be cut. Then there is money investment. You know, there are so many initiatives who need some financial support. So we asked people if they were satisfied with the money that they were giving. Maybe you have experienced recruiters coming and asking money for Médecins Sans Frontières, for UNICEF, for all other these non-profit organizations. Most of people were satisfied. It was very interesting that some were actually saying that from the giver's perspective, it's a bit difficult to put pressure on the non-profits to report very regularly, because it will put more administrative pressure on them. So people are really trusting. It is a very good thing that donators are trusting organizations. One highlight that I want to bring, it's about democracy issues. One of our respondents said, my money goes on a regular basis to Akcja Demokracja, an NGO who mobilizes Polish civil society when our democracy is in the trouble. Yes, I think that it pays off, because supporting democracy, it's very important. And also supporting these kind of organizations is helping right voices to be heard. And we, during all these panels, discussed about how much power and money have big multinationals, and how money is actually sometimes making changes in the movements for non-profits. Successful examples, it's quite interesting what are considered by our respondents as successful examples of social movements. Fridays for Future, mentioned a lot of times. It's exactly a very successful one, because it changed actually public debate. Media is talking about this now, but also American Civil Liberties Union. I think it's a big thing in the North America, in the US especially, fighting against death penalty, against incarceration. It's Planned Parenthood, Amnesty International, Black Lives Matter, Greenpeace. And what is uniting all of them is that they were successful in mobilizing public opinion to put pressure on political governments. But on the other side, there is other organizations which are impacting the way how we are living every single day. And there I am classifying like the movement Me Too, 9 major groups of UN conferences, the female lead, and these kind of movements, which are actually changing the way we are interacting between each other. And very interesting thing, and we discussed, I mean, you asked this question about successful civil society, and I was surprised to read this answer, was political parties that win elections are successful civil society groups. So defining civil society is also sometimes very difficult, and we at Greycells Steering Committee had some time to brainstorm about it also. So I will move. I have a lot of things to say, but I think I don't have that much time. There are also failed social movements. For example, someone is saying that there is no failed social movement. Anyone who is trying to organize itself around any social good goal is already a success. But there are also some concrete examples. Someone mentioned Gilets jaunes movement because it was started, according to the respondent, as a spontaneous mobilization of socially marginalized, economically poor people, but then was infiltrated by violent extremist groups. It's not necessarily my opinion, but human rights defenders are murdered continuously. It is important and interesting angle also when we are seeing human rights defenders in Turkey, in Russia, or in other parts of the world murdered. This is not successful movement, let's say. And then we see that there were member states lobbied for the social and solidarity economy, and it didn't pass at the UN, so it was not that successful. Black protest in Poland, maybe you heard in the beginning of the protest when the Polish government was trying to pass a very hard anti-abortion law. But at the end of the day, so-called constitutional court actually pushed for that movement. So in the beginning it was successful, but then it failed. Someone was perhaps a bit ironical, saying that Trump supporters in the Capitol Hall were a successful social movement example. Well, mobilization against Iraq war. Today we talked about other mobilization that we don't know, but mobilization against Iraq war was really, and unfortunately, a successful social movement. Now we are seeing Hong Kong event, and Arab Spring was very oftenly mentioned as an example of a successful social movement. I will pass to, no, it's Lucia. Okay. So I will finish here. Thank you.
Dianova International. I'm based in Spain. And Dianova, we work in the social and health field in 19 countries. Continuing with the survey results, as we have heard today, like it or not, for-profit private firms play a major role in influencing governments, policies, and global agendas. And most of the respondents of the survey highlighted that these are more influential than non-profit entities. And most responses also believe that social mobilization has an impact on the accountability of the private sector, mainly at the national, local, and global level. Therefore, the thought arises on how to encompass and channel this private firm's interests with sustainable development and global goals arising from social mobilization. Indeed, it will be key to link aspects such as climate change or poverty to private companies' goals and to be able to measure the impact of those private companies at the long term. In my view, and as already mentioned by today's panelists, there are various ongoing trends and aspects that could improve the synergies by, for instance, enhancing corporate social responsibility, or even better, the OECD guidelines mentioned by Raymond Saner. Also demanding and well-informed clients that promote a system of accountability. Non-profit organizations should be also learning from private companies on their organizational, professional, and efficiency skills. And in this globalized world, it's important to promote the message of thinking globally and acting locally. Results from the survey show that most responders are positive about the increasing role of civil society in the past 25 years, because indeed NGOs have long had a merely consultative or operational role in the functioning of decision-making processes of international organizations. But today, however, many of them are now involved in defining policies and priorities for the programs of international organizations. And as a representative from Dianova, I can say that we are really pleased to witness on how much civil society organizations have gained space and voice at particular UN level forums especially during this last decade. And it's also important to say that this has also come hand in hand with the better organization of civil society organizations and platforms, this is key, that have adapted their work to operate at international forums by speaking like in their language and also acting as former stakeholders. To the question of who is more engaged, if millennials or seniors, there were mixed answers, but the majority believe that millennials are more engaged. And looking at which methods have more impact on policymakers, it's interesting to see that at the first place, there are elections, then the use of social media at the second place, street mobilization and strikes continue by far. Moreover, the survey respondents did predominantly distinguish between the impact and motivation of civil society mobilizations depending of if this were happening in high income or low income countries, because the drivers of mobilizations were different. In low income countries, it's more related to and linked to poverty and the lack of economic and social opportunities. Whereas in high income countries, the social mobilizations might be more linked to global challenges. The space of civil society, it's also different according to the economic development, no surprises here, and also the level of education was highlighted by the respondents. As in high-income countries, there are more people with higher educations that are more sensitive towards social movements and that have more access to information. And this leads to my final reflection on what could be done to empower civil society mobilizations in low-income countries for accessing the networks and that whole political and financial power that enable change. So I thank you for your attention.
Yes, so for the last part of the survey, I'm Chiara Müller, and I'm vice president of an NGO called GIMUN that promotes the international environment to students. So the questions I analyzed were about the factors that are relevant for the impact of social mobilizations. And it will be not surprising that the first one most voted was the visibility on social media. Obviously, mostly in this time of COVID, the world is around social media. The news are about social media. Everybody is on there. And the communication happens also there. And like Mr. Sana also spoke about, all the this mirroring of what is happening and what needs to be done, the knowledge that we have is on social media, so it's normal that this was the first answer. But the second one was the financial support. That is a realistic answer, we need the money. But what was said is that the strong civil society group support and the governmental support were answers that didn't receive as much interest as the other one. So we should think about this and show that actually this support is more important than the social media. It's about the people. And so the age, the political opinion, and the private forum supports didn't seem to have as much as an impact in the social mobilization as the others in this first question. The other questions were about the role of philanthropic organizations, particularly private and family foundations, in influencing local, national, or global policy making, and if it was positive, negative, or neutral. And mostly, the people answered that it was a positive, but there were too many people saying that it had a neutral or negative effect. And this is so sad, but this is the vision a lot of people have about these philanthropic organizations. We also, Greycells also asked to provide some examples of high net worth individuals or private philanthropic foundations. And there were not many answers. People knew about Bill Gates with Melinda, so the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They talked about the health, the women, the children, but they were not able to tell about many others. And tonight we met so many personalities, so many people that are making a difference, and we should let others see that. Let others see that there are so many people working for this, and there are not only so little personalities. There are so many that need the view on the social media that seems to be the most important part of all this. And to show these personalities to the public, to the people who answered this survey. and to show them in events like that, and like this here, like so many different events. And this is what I wanted to underline, and thank you, this is it.